As you can see, I didn't come in an empty car today, and I drove very carefully. Art has been something that has spoken to people for centuries, for thousands of years, and especially in churches. If any of you have been to Europe, yes, and visited some of the churches, you will find artwork around the place that speaks of stories from the Bible. Because a lot of people, especially in quite a few hundreds of years ago, couldn't read, but the art told them the stories. I was thinking about this last night and had a friend who told me that he and his wife used to go over to Eastern Europe a lot, and some of the churches there were just magnificent with their artwork. And I stopped and thought, oh my heavens, how many of those churches were in Ukraine or in those areas that have been bombed and are now no longer have that artwork. So that's something to reflect on over the next week or so. I've brought two paintings with me. They are by Kerry Holland, who, some of you know Kerry Holland? Yep, okay. Kerry is the wife of Bishop Jonathan Holland, who is at the moment the principal of St Francis College. Kerry is an artist in her own right. I had a bit to do with her when I was at the Brookfield Centre. In fact, she was the person that gave me the inclination to, if anyone knows the old Brookfield Centre, the old friary. Yep. Well, my husband and I lived there for 15 years looking after the place. And there was the little side cottage, St Clair's cottage. We lived upstairs, but downstairs were rooms. It was Kerry who gave me the impetus to have those rooms done up so artists could use them as studios. Okay? Anyhow, two paintings. The first one over there is of a hand, a very strong hand with a very awful scar in it. Okay? The second one, look, if you want to stand up and move around there so you can see them, the people at the side, please do. Okay? And you too, if you want to. Here is a second hand with someone kind of pointing. Okay? And all through the two, you will see lots of words. And in fact, I challenge you to come forward after church, have a good look at them, look at the words and see if you can find 5 words that I have just said from our gospel reading, because they are in there. Okay? And there's also this flash of kind of a light through there. And the painting is called The Point of Recognition. Okay? Now let's have a look at the hands properly. Here we have a hand that represents the hand of Jesus. Now when Kerry was doing this, she suddenly felt that she needed a strong hand, because it was very likelihood that Jesus helped his father in the carpentry industry. And because Jesus was 30 when he went out into ministry, it's every likelihood that he would have spent 10, 15 years or more working in that trade. And there's no special lifts or anything that they can use nowadays for helping people lift things. They would have had to use their own hands. So Kerry felt, well, Jesus' hand was probably a very strong, muscly hand. And when she was doing this, they happened to have a tradesman in the house. So she said, oh, can I use your hand for a model? Which she did. So that's why we have this very strong hand. So Jesus' hand with a big scar in it. Okay? Over the other side, you have a hand that's pointing. But it's not pointing in a way that some of us will point and say, don't do this, or, it's that direct point. It's a hand that's kind of relaxed in its pointing. It's a hand that gives me the impression of someone, and what about that? It's that thinking, kind of questioning, but trying to get clarity. You know how what about that? Oh yeah, that kind of hand, it's that kind of hand, okay? And so, Thomas's hand, because Thomas had said, I won't, unless I touch Jesus' wounds, I won't know for sure. So there is Thomas about to touch Jesus' hand. I have these in my house at the moment. I won't go into the story why. But a few years ago, they were hanging in my hallway. And I had a new kitchen put in. And one of the tradesmen kept going past and stopped and looked. And I hadn't noticed this until probably the second day he was there. He was looking again. And I thought, do you know what it is? No, he said. I said, well, it's the story from the Bible of Jesus and Thomas's hand. He said, oh, I go to church at such and such. And he said a bit more, but then he went on to do his work. This really got his attention. This is art speaking to someone and getting their, like a visual, not just the words, the visual context of it. So they're there. And I think, and I think Kerry mentioned it to me, and I can't remember, that flash there is a sign of that recognition. That when Thomas did see Jesus' hand in front of him, did have the opportunity to touch it, we'll never know if he ever did, but he did have that opportunity, there was a flash, that lightning flash, that light bulb moment. Yes, it is him. The disciples have been telling me the truth. I believe. Okay? So what does this say to us today, 2,000 years later? Besides telling us about the story and making it more visually able to be reinterpreted, I think it tells us two things. Firstly, I think it tells us that Jesus' hand, this strong hand, Jesus never used the strength in that hand. He always used his hand gently to touch, to heal, to talk, to be with people. I think that is saying it to me, that Jesus is always open to listen to us, to be with us, and to help us find more in our faith. Some of the little nitty-gritty points in our faith. Jesus is there to help us. And I think, because of that, I think Thomas's hand is saying to us, yep, it's okay to question. It's okay to search out a fact if we want to know it. We don't have to be strong and hold everything like that. We can search. We can ask. We can find. Because Jesus' hand is open for us to do that. As I said, I invite you to come forward after the service, have a close look, see what words are there, and think about what this means for you today. Amen. Yes. That's fine, David. Yes. 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 That's 4 paintings? Yep. Lovely. That's okay, because I'll follow that through with, I've got another little one, because I had a bit to do with Kerry at the Brookfield Centre. I've got one that she did, which is of lace work too, David, but it's in the section, it's partly missing a bit. It's a bit, how can you say it, not quite right? And when she gave it to me, she said it was called the, now I can't think what it was called. But it's there to say it's okay not to be perfect. So guess where it's hanging? In my study. Thanks, David.